Interstellar was directed by Christopher Nolan and came out in 2014. That's right, 10 years ago. This movie this year is a decade old. And of course, spoilers ahead for this movie. This movie was huge when it came out. A lot of good reviews, mostly, even though some mixed opinions from critics, but overall, pretty good and positive consensus for this film. It was popular, one of the highest grossing movies of 2014. Had all these award nominations for its visual effects, and just the technicality side of this film was very highly praised and rewarded as a result. This film is set in a dystopian future where there's a big famine surrounding plants, and really like farmers are a very relied upon profession to keep people alive and keep mankind going on planet Earth. There are dust storms that happen quite frequently around our main characters in their home on their farm, and overall society is just falling apart. It's decaying, it's going downhill. However, NASA has plans to send astronauts on a mission into space through a wormhole into Saturn in search for mankind, in search for a new place to resort to and to live, because Earth is just not really the place to stay at anymore. This is kind of a simple way to explain it. Amongst these astronauts is the character of Joseph Cooper, the protagonist, the main guy that we follow, who has resorted to farming after NASA had shut down, and we follow his life on the farm with his 2 kids and his father-in-law. I just want to say right off the bat, I really enjoy all of this part of the movie, this first act, well, part of the first act, really, leading up to the actual mission, seeing Coop's life as a farmer, and all the setup with his children. I think Mackenzie Foy and Timothy Chalamet as Murph and Tom, respectively, are very good, as is John Lithgow playing Donald. And it's funny to watch this movie nowadays when the credits are playing at the end and they're showing, all the primary cast members, and Chalamet isn't even listed when he's like, I would say the biggest name now in that movie, like right now in 2024, he's the biggest, most relevant name, but 10 years ago, like he was not a very popular name, and not as weighty as Matthew McConaughey, John Lithgow, Jessica Chastain, of course, Anne Hathaway, Michael Caine. Yeah, all these big actors, he was nowhere near their popularity and relevance at the time. But it's just kind of funny to see that looking back now. So I like how Nolan portrayed this family and how he portrayed the heartbreak that comes with Cooper going on this mission, knowing that he's going to be gone for years, because time just works differently in space, and with them going through this wormhole, like he says to Murph at a certain point, we might be the same age when I come back. And it's just all, it's, tough to watch, it's sad, but it's all handled, I think, very well and very smoothly transitions into the actual mission taking place. But that is where we get to one of my personal complaints with this film, and that is how NASA is portrayed. Compared to other space movies I've seen before, such as Apollo 13, or even to an extent 2001: A Space Odyssey, this major organization, it just feels kind of small in this movie. It doesn't feel like it's such a big deal. And, even how easily Coop is able to find the station that one night when he's driving out with Murph, I don't really feel the sense of the stakes that are surrounding this place. And with it being, supposedly shut down around this time too, it feels like he finds it way too easily. And I don't know, I hope you guys understand what I'm getting at here. I just feel like the film could have done a better job at portraying this big, huge organization like NASA, because it doesn't really it feels like there's going on a little side quest into space kind of thing. It doesn't feel as big as like in Apollo 13 going to the moon. You know what I mean? There's a contrast there. The somewhat fear and stakes come more from just how long Cooper might be away from his family. Once we are on this mission in space, we get what are some amazing visual effects that 10 years later still look great. It's held up so well. I think personally for me, some of my favorite effects in the movie come in the Tesseract scene more towards the end with, McConaughey punching through the bookshelves and looking at the memories from the past with his kids, with Murph in particular. The whole look of that scene, the aesthetic, I don't know how they did it. It just looks really cool. Really, for me, it's just a delight for the eyes. McConaughey is amazing in this movie. He is excellent. I don't know how he didn't get an Oscar nomination because, gosh, his acting is just so good in certain scenes. Obviously, there are specific ones that people point to, like when he's watching the video of Murph when she's his age at the time of recording that. I've seen that clip used in like YouTube compilation videos, best acting ever, that kind of stuff. That's great, but there are also other scenes where he is just so good. And I want to say he's part of what makes this movie enjoyable, is because of just his strong acting, his strong presence. Without as good a protagonist that this movie does have, I don't think it would be nearly as enjoyable. Another way to word it is that if it weren't for him being in this movie and for a protagonist that strong, that this movie just wouldn't have the same effects as it does. So big props to him for his performance. Of course, love Jessica Chastain as well. One of my personal favorite performances in this film, alongside McConaughey. Even Matt Damon, I think, is great. But there is his character, which I do not like at all. He plays the character of Man, and like I said, his performance is good, but there's several aspects of this character that I don't think are very well realized and written, such as his motivation for sabotaging this specific crew to take over the ship and get back to Earth himself. Is there not a scenario that exists where they can all just get along and get home safely together? Maybe you guys can let me know. I know there are different interpretations for this movie. Some things people get and don't get. Maybe this is just something that I don't understand. So please inform me if you have a good interpretation on that. But as it stands right now, I just don't like this character very much. I could keep going, but overall, in short, just easily one of my least favorite aspects of this film is Man. To touch on, though, some more of the things that are ambiguous and not so straightforward and explained in the film, there is that whole Tesseract scene, which involves Cooper falling through this black hole and then just abruptly coming across these bookshelf structures, which he then finds out is a way for him to look to previous timelines from specifically his children when he was on planet Earth. Do I completely understand how he got there, why he is there, why Murph also sort of had a hinge on what all that means, the books, the ghost in her room knocking the books down, and then present time Murph figuring out what it all means as well. I don't completely understand it all, but to be honest, I don't really care. This is not a video of me trying to analyze Interstellar and figure out what it all means. This is just a simple review, what I think of it, things I like, things I didn't, things I think are cool. And I just think this whole scene is super cool and it's thought-provoking, and it makes you contemplate how something like that could happen and why it happens. And it's just cool. I don't know, I think it's visually very interesting, like I said, too. Also, just, of course, gotta mention Hans Zimmer's score. It is phenomenal throughout the entire movie, but especially these parts. It really does add and emphasize emotional weight to these scenes when he's in the Tesseract. Just a beautiful job overall with the score. I think lastly, I do just want to touch on some of the ending scenes to the film as well. Cooper now living on Saturn, waking up that one day in the hospital, looking out the window, seeing the cool visuals, the world kind of spearing up in a curve. That's probably the wrong terminology, but I mean, if you've seen it, you know probably exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, when he visits Murph in the hospital, it's really a tear-jerking scene. Not for me personally, but definitely one I could see for a lot of other people. I mean, he's her father and she's about to die. It's wild how old she is and how much younger he is. it's a trippy, crazy scene to watch. I would have liked a little more closure with his son. I do wish we got a little more of that, even though I know the focus was his relationship with his daughter, not as much with his son. That was a different theme, different vibe going on there. But I would have liked to know kind of more about him too. But overall, I do really like how the film wraps up and how it even hints at another mission that Cooper might go on too. It kind of leaves it open to interpretation. So overall, Interstellar, I think, is a really solid Christopher Nolan film. It's not one of my favorites of his. I can think of several, honestly, that I do like more. Most recently, Oppenheimer, I think, is a better film. But I think it serves its purpose very well, being fitting under the psychological science fiction genre, at times even almost like a horror sci-fi at certain moments. But it's got a lot of heart. Several of the main characters I really do care about, and I like following along in this story. I do have some complaints still, like I said, just really don't like that man character. And NASA overall, I think, could have been portrayed better, a little more realistically. But it is an absolute feast for the eyes, visually, audibly. The music by Hans Zimmer is terrific. And it's never really boring at all, if you ask me. Definitely slow at times, but always pretty engaging. Overall, I really like Interstellar. I think it's a really good movie. I would give it 8.5 out of 10. Curious to know what you guys think of this, how it would rank in like a Christopher Nolan ranking. If you were to rank his films, where would it fit in there? I feel like it's going to be a different answer for everyone. Some people might think it's one of his best or one of his worst. Not a whole lot of middle grounds, but I'm very curious what you guys think. Hope you guys liked that. It's been a while since I did a classic review, because that's obviously what this is that I'm doing. If you didn't realize it, I normally review newer stuff, but sometimes I like to set aside time to review an older release of a film or an album. This is the newest one I've done so far. The oldest release I'd done for was 11 years. That was Triple X, the Danny Brown. At the time I reviewed it, it was 11 years old. This one is just turning 10 this year, so yeah, I felt like it was valid to review it. But anywho, that is all I got for you guys. Thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video. Peace out.